Welcome to the Coolidge Conference at the Library of Congress. I'm Jim Douglas from Vermont, and we'll try to keep things more or less on track and on time today with your assistance. We've got an all-star packed panel to speak to you about the important topics before us, and we want to make sure that we honor everybody's time. Before we get the conference underway formally, I want to invite a couple of our Coolidge students to come forward and help us honor America. So let's welcome Abby Metzner, Chloe Peters, and Jason Shim to come up front and lead us in singing our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the balls bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you so much. On behalf of our chairman, Amity Schlaze, our president, Matt Denhart, and my colleagues on the board of trustees of the Coolidge Foundation, I'm honored to welcome you all to our annual conference. I also want to welcome our virtual audience watching live on C-SPAN this morning. We're delighted that you are with us as well. I want to thank our hosts and our sponsors. First of all, of course, the Library of Congress, represented this morning by Dr. Kevin Butterfield. The Lion and Harry Bradley Foundation, whose president, Rick Graber, is here, along with his colleagues, Alicia Manning and Ingrid Gregg. The Bradley Impact Fund, represented by Sherry Street. The National Review Institute, our media sponsor. You'll be hearing from Chuck DeFeo a little later today. The Hall of Giants, a new effort to build a set of monuments to America's great entrepreneurs. Chairman John Tillman is here, and he'll speak to us later this morning. The Competitive Enterprise Institute, whose CEO, Kent Lastman, will be moderating a panel. And so other generous supporters of the foundation, Michael and Olga Block, Mike and Lindy Kaiser, Chris and Kim Nunn, who created the Nunn Fellows Program for young people who've shown an interest in Coolidge, and our longtime supporter and trustee, John Childs. We have nearly 150 students with us at the conference today. They're from our Coolidge community. They're scholars, they're senators who win this high honor because of their academic merit. And we have Coolidge debaters, including those in the prestigious 1890 Society. We have Nunn Fellows and their parents as well. Now, when we started planning this conference, we actually had a different title in mind. We were going to call it The American Economy in the 20th Century. We wanted to look generally at the economy and study the significant periods of legislation that affected it throughout that period. But the more we looked into it, we thought, the history of the 20th century economy is often missing a key element, because it's really business that has driven the prosperity of the American people. So we went through a period of amending our proposed title and decided to focus on businesses to the rescue. I'll give you just one example. Our luncheon speaker today, Harold Hamm, right after the financial crisis in the 21st century, came up with an innovation in energy, horizontal drilling, that generated tremendous growth at a period when our unemployment was very high and the economy under tremendous stress. So you'll hear about that dramatic story later. And after all, our president, Calvin Coolidge, said the chief business of the American people is business. So we think Business to the Rescue is the better title for our conference today. We're going to go more or less chronologically through the 20th century with the early enactments in the pre-Coolidge era. Then we'll get to the Great Depression, the New Deal, the beginning of World War II, and of course, the Great Society. At the end of the day, we're going to close with a discussion of what lessons we can take away and what policies might enable economic growth for the future. And that'll be a great discussion with Chuck DeFeo and Steve Forbes, so we look forward to that at the end. But first of all, we've got two distinguished leaders from the United States Congress with us here today. They're longtime friends of the Coolidge Foundation, and we're honored that they would take time out of their busy schedules to come over here and spend some time with all of us. First, I'm going to introduce Representative Virginia Foxx of North Carolina. She's in her 11th term in the United States House. She has led the Workforce and Education Committee in the past. She has a great education background as a college president, and now she chairs the influential Committee on Rules. And I should note that when Calvin Coolidge was a state senator in Massachusetts, he served on the Rules Committee. So there's always a connection of one kind or another. So we're honored to have her with us. Let's welcome Congresswoman Virginia Foxx.
Yes, there's always a connection, I find. Doesn't take long to find a connection to people. Good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here alongside you for the start of this conference. I thank Amity and the Coolidge Foundation for extending me the invitation to be here again, say a few words, and I thank Governor Douglas for the introduction. I'm here with my friend French Hill. We were in a meeting Tuesday, and the speaker introduced him as the overqualified chair of the Financial Services Committee, and he definitely is overqualified. So he's a great friend, and I'm sorry I'm going to have to leave and not be able to stay. I can't overstate how much I appreciate and revere the work of the Coolidge Foundation. And I want to make a small commercial here that wasn't in my prepared remarks, but we're always looking for interns in our office. So if you're interested in an internship on Capitol Hill with a very conservative member, particularly financially conservative, I am more frugal than President Coolidge was. Oh, I know that's hard to be, but I am. You can ask my staff and my family, and they will tell you. But we have great opportunities for interns, so if you're interested. In my view, in the view of many, the foundation remains a premier hub for the values, civil discourse, and perspectives that have helped define, propel, and calibrate our nation. Generations of Americans to come will benefit from the work that the foundation does day in and day out. This conference, I know, is especially important, and I hope that it's both enlightening and informative for you. And I thank the Library of Congress also for hosting you. Like all of us here today, President Coolidge held an abiding sense of gratitude for entrepreneurs, from titans of industry, and you'll hear from one this afternoon at lunch, to those who worked on a smaller scale and still made measurable positive contributions to the world around them. All entrepreneurs make contributions. As President Coolidge once remarked during an address to the American Society of Newspaper Editors here in D.C. on January 17, 1925, and I'm repeating something that Governor Douglas said, "After all, the chief business of the American people is business. They are profoundly concerned with producing, buying, selling, investing, and prospering in the world. It's really no secret that these entrepreneurs among us all are some of the most gifted people on God's green earth. They push the limits of what is possible, and they do so with unbridled determination and persistence." Another pertinent quote attributed to President Coolidge that encapsulates the entrepreneurial and innovative spirit of these men and women, these unsung heroes, is, quote, "Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence and determination alone," are omnipotent. These men and women deserve recognition and praise many times over for what they do and for the strides they continue to make. Far too often, that praise and recognition are not accorded to them, and they should be. Entrepreneurs are problem solvers, and all of us understand that there will always be problems that must be solved. There will always be a need for entrepreneurs. Their skills and expertise remain invaluable. Another simple fact is that America is the most unique and opportunity-driven nation on the face of the earth. And this nation has always given entrepreneurs the opportunity to thrive. President Coolidge understood this. That's why he wanted to strike down barriers like bureaucracy and surging government influence, because he knew that they were impediments to the market and to those who helped contribute to the market and broader civil society. Many may not know this, but my husband and I are entrepreneurs. We started a nursery business that our daughter now oversees. We didn't start that business out of convenience or on a whim. We started that business because it was a viable opportunity that helped us provide for our family. And it was an option that met the needs of our family, like so many other entrepreneurs. My husband had to work away from home because of the economic situation and where we lived. We live in a fabulously beautiful place in western North Carolina, but there were few jobs for him, so he had to work away from home, come home only on weekends. But we both love where we live. In fact, we live within 0.2 of a mile of where he was born and raised, and we have since 1968. So he wanted to be home. We had no money, but we had sweat equity. So we went into the nursery and landscaping business. Tom said, all you need is a pickup and a shovel. And that's basically how we started. Now, we did not get wealthy from that business, but we built a small business, as I said, that our daughter now runs that will celebrate 50 years in business this year. It's been very hard over the years. It was a lot easier for us when we started. There weren't as many people in the business in our area. But she was determined to keep it going for 50 years. But the good news is our grandson's now working in the business. So we hope it's going to continue. That's the story of the entrepreneur. That's the story of those who President Coolidge fought and advocated for so passionately and believed in. I wholeheartedly believe you'll enjoy the forthcoming panels and the invaluable and insightful perspective from the wonderful panelists on them. You're in for a real retreat. The last time I spoke to the Coolidge Foundation, I closed my remarks by saying that everyone would do well to follow the model that President Coolidge once set. His affinity for fiscal conservatism, his abounding frugality, and let me tell you, I share it, and maybe am more frugal. As I said, ask my family and friends, and they'll tell you. And his budgetary evangelism that he brought to the American people should be extended the due deference they deserve. I'm going to add to my previous remarks by simply saying we also would do well to espouse President Coolidge's perspective on entrepreneurs and innovation as well, and reflect extensively upon the impact they've made upon our lives. The lives of everyone in this room have been impacted by everyday men and women who wanted to solve a problem. And they put a lot of elbow grease, blood, sweat, and tears into doing it. Let's not forget that. I'll say it again. We live in the most opportunity-driven and prosperous nation in the entire world. what a blessing it is to live, grow, and thrive here. And if you don't wake up every morning and say, thank you, Lord, for letting me live in this country, then shame on you. I wish you a wonderful conference, and may God continue to bless you today, tomorrow, and always. And thank you again for inviting me to be here.
Well, we appreciate your frugality, Congresswoman Fox, so keep it up. We certainly know that that's consistent with President Coolidge's value. Well, I'd like to now introduce the overqualified chairman of the important House Committee on Financial Services. Congressman French Hill of Arkansas has been a great friend of the Coolidge Foundation for quite some time, and he is indeed well prepared for this important responsibility. He's had experience in the executive branch of the federal government and has a long career in banking and business. So we're delighted that he's in the role that he is, and equally delighted that he could spend time with us today. Let's welcome Congressman French Hill.
Morning, everybody. You saw a real treat with Virginia Fox. She's just one of the best people in Congress and one of the most delightful people I know, and she's exactly what the founders had in mind when they thought of who might be selected from a state to serve in Congress. Virginia Fox is a real gift, and she is frugal. I had a grandfather who I thought after every buffet had plastic bags in his pockets to walk out with half the buffet, you know. But he didn't want to have to send his suit to the dry cleaners, but she rivals that level of frugality. Governor Douglas, thank you so much for the introduction. Amity and trustees of the Coolidge Foundation, thank you so much for inviting me back to participate in this annual fora that we are so proud of to host at the Library of Congress. And for our scholars, I hope all of you take a moment to walk over to the Jefferson Building and see truly the most beautiful building in the United States, the reading room in the Jefferson Building across the street. And while you're there, take a minute and look at the recreation of Jefferson's library that was the origin of the Library of Congress, including many volumes that were Jefferson's in his personal collection that were not burned in a most unpleasant event at the Capitol a couple hundred years ago. Happy New Year, happy semi-quincentennial, happy practicing saying that word in public on television. But this is, as Virginia said, the greatest country in the world with the most opportunity, and yet this is also the celebration of that 250th year of the most amazing experiment in self-government in the world. And so it's a pleasure to be, as I said, at Coolidge and participate in events both here as well as up at Plymouth Notch. That was a special treat, 4th of July a few years ago when I got to participate in the debates there. A century ago, Calvin Coolidge was here at the library. And he presided over a ceremony when the library created a shrine and opened the display of the Declaration of Independence here at the library. And today we're gathered in that same library, in that same spirit that you'll hear so much about Coolidge and his place and in feelings about the Declaration of Independence. But reflecting on this historic building and the fact that it is A250, here in 2026, it's easy to consider life that Virginia and I would have had if we served in the first Congress, 1789 to 1790. Some of you might think we're old enough to have served in that first Congress. And you might think that it was more dignified and civil compared to our own social media and poisonous meme environment that we serve in today, which is served up continuously and simultaneously and continuously all day, every day, 24 hours a day. But I hate to disappoint you. I'm afraid not. Newspapers in that first Congress were the political war machines designed for opponents to take down each other in vicious blows, often anonymously. And I guess I'd have to ask this group, did they call that dark money? I don't know. And of course, occasionally things would spin out of control, as they did on the heights above the Hudson in July of 1804, when two political rivals, two political giants actually ended each other's careers. One by death, Alexander Hamilton, the other, his rival, Aaron Burr, by infamy. But mostly the 65 House members of that first Congress and 22 senators tried peacefully to navigate the most extraordinary circumstances. independence after 8 years of war, governance after 8 years of a feeble, failing confederation. And now they were at the heart of a new creation, a constitutional republic, self-government, and they were literally building the plane of state as they were flying it. No small agenda faced that first Congress assembled in March of 1789, and of those 65 House members, 28 had served in that Confederation Congress. So they knew everything bad about it, and I don't know what they thought as they walked back in to the meeting. Only 22 senators came to New York that spring, as North Carolina, Rhode Island had not ratified the Constitution and would not do so until December 1789 and May 1790, respectively. The summer of 1789 in New York, miserable, insufferably hot, and tempers were hot as well. Washington's friend and former aide, John Trumbull, told a friend, everything conducted by party, intrigue, and cabal. If it continues, we may well bid adieu to the hopes of federal government. And the public was hot as well. They were inflamed by reports that members of Congress who only officially sat for 4 hours a day were paid the princely sum of $2 per diem. Meanwhile, up in the public galleries, in that foul humor and rising hot air, visitors in the House and Senate in Federal Hall carped that the congressmen below were loudly cracking nuts with their teeth and treading on the shells. It's a little hard to debate religious liberty when you can't hear over the cracking nuts. So, my friends, take heart. What's past is prologue. America will thrive and generations will continue the traditions of selfless service modeled by those who've come before us. And all of you as scholars with the Coolidge Foundation you're rightly placed to learn political and economic and history of our country and to know that that is the future of our nation. So I invite everyone here and those watching, stay tuned in to C-SPAN. Turn down the air conditioner, crack some nuts, and watch the successors of the characters from that very first Congress perform to the best of their ability to guide the most successful and truly extraordinary experiment in self-government in history. Thank you all for having me today.